We're finally into the final of this godforsaken excuse for a tournament that has been a calamity up to this point, but maybe we can at least get one good Setons game out of it, please, for the love of all that is holy, as I watch Pico start first Mass Extractor in the front slot on Setons and I lose all faith in humanity. Holy cow, why is Achieved not having an aneurysm right now? The teams are going to be Free Feather on the south side versus Vegetable Stack to the north. Of course, the individuals are Tagada, UEF in the air slot, right Beach, as that is Blast Chilled as Cybern. We got UEF on the front for Pico and UEF in the naval slot for Jaguar on Rock. North side, Zlo is Seraphim. Then we've got Aeon for Magnatech in the air slot, Blinchick going Seraphim for the Navy, and then Bravo with Aeon on the front line going factory first and walking as is customary. So this is going to be your traditional I am going to move into the back and break all of your tree clumps to prevent the air player from reclaiming things properly build, as Bravo sends those scouts away to the southern edge. This is, of course, a very lengthy name for a build, but a good one nonetheless. Yes, Finster, I am preparing the salt right now as we speak, because it is going to come out full and strong. Pico also electing to not send an engineer to the north to reclaim with his ACU, so that's interesting. I get the feeling that Pico doesn't play the front on Setons very much. This might end badly. Achieve Jaguar dropping the customary 6 power generators before the air factory in order to try and get an airlock or at least an air unit out. He is going to be attack moving an engineer over to the left to get the tree reclaim in order to float this air factory on an insufficient number of P-gens and get his early build on the rails. Zlo dropping an air factory off the Hydro with nothing built in between him and the 4 mexes there. But he does have an engineer out reclaiming tree clumps to bring that deficit into the clear. Magnatech dropping a clump of power generators with an air factory off of his mass extractor to the south of his ACU, filling in the hydro and scattering a boot to get a lot of mass extractors, as is the customary air player thing to do. You can see the scattering of manual reclaim orders popping up all over the map as these players engage. We do have some combat units out early, couple of flares from Bravo as he's moving up to the front. Those will try to bypass the ACU and get into the rear to kill off the engineers building the Hydro. If you can do that, it does a very good job of shutting down the early game of your opponent. And then we have 2 air factory opening for Blinchick. This is an interesting thing indeed, not something that I see too terribly often, and that is going to give him hopefully a heavy air advantage later on in the game, because man, it is going to slow him down in the early run. Appreciate the sub gift, Andoro, going out to Finster. Thank you very much. Let's see what we've got in response down here. So we have an air factory built by Blast Chilled in his home base, not off the Hydro, which is fairly atypical, but perfectly acceptable. Jaguar rushing the transport over to that side. Thankfully, Zlo also rushed the transport because this transport can be tagged by the beach player if your build is early enough by a first interceptor. So Achieved is going to drop first. 4 engineers on the transport will have time to build for a little while before this is dropped, but we do have a tank plus 4 engineers from Zlo, which will attempt an elimination over here, but may or may not actually get it. Mistha, appreciate the bits, man. Pinging out, watch the scout in the trees. Yes, I did see that earlier, pointed it out, and now he is just shifting around, breaking as many tree clumps as possible, and just overall destroying the hopes and dreams of the air player as he watches his trees go down to the NG. Land Factory is going to finish. That's going to be Jaguar ahead on the island. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, we have an air superiority fight going down instead of the early transports. Bomber out for Blast Chilled in anticipation of the transport landing on the other island, and that is probably going to get shot down due to the fact that there are 5 interceptors in the air as opposed to 2 from Blast. So most likely Blast Chilled has lost his island. Achieved has secured his. And overall, this game takes place basically as your typical Setons game goes. Oh my goodness. Is that actually going to happen? It is. Zlo was able to reclaim the factory before his engineers died. Mostly a move to spite, because that is not in reality going to change anything about how this goes down, but it is going to give Achieved something else that he has to build, something else he has to spend mass on, and overall just kind of toss him into a tizzy. Interceptors moving to the north with scouts to try and catch the scout that will inevitably be built from the rock position. I think that Blast has lost any chance whatsoever of securing the island, but he is going to try and be as large a pain in the buttocks as he possibly can to his opponent. Moving back to the middle, Pico taking some fire from artillery. Let's go take a look-see at his reclaim. Pico at a 4,400. His opponent is Bravo, who is a rockin' 5K at the memento and increasing quite nicely. Pico gonna get forced out of the middle. Bravo left with the rest of this reclaim as the T1 bomber comes in to assist on that artillery harassment that was forcing Pico out of the middle there just a moment ago. That is a very desperate build from Bravo. Not desperate, that is a bad word for it. That is a very aggressive build from Bravo, sacrificing some of his potential early game eco. He only has one mass extractor upgraded to T2 for a more aggressive position moving into the middle portion of the game that should let him in the long run out eco his opponent. But it is a dangerous game to play for both sides, because if Pico is able to survive this onslaught, he has an initial advantage, but Bravo will have the extended one. So Pico's already at T2 mass extractors on 2. He's not going to be able to finish his other 2 though, so we're going to be 1 T2 max behind shortly, and the land will scale from Bravo. There's your first 6 minutes of a Setons game. Always the most hectic thing about it. Now we'll settle into our long-term naval battles and other engagements and see how things go. Transport, dropping engineers off onto the island. Actually, a double drop, trying to get those mass extractors as quickly as possible. As we get a drop nailed, blast chilled, losing that transport, but the engineers did get off into the water, and we're going to see some naval factories going down a little bit closer to the opponent. That is going to let you get frigates over into his bay a lot more quickly and potentially get a naval lock. Beach versus rock, of course, a classic case of an asymmetrical team game map. Your rock position has closer access to the island, 1 extra mass extractor than the beach does without it, and then an advantage of 6 total mass extractors usually as the game goes on. Excellent work getting the bomber in here, but that bomber is going to get shot down, maybe not quickly enough. Gonna kill that engineer off. Oh dear. He has got to kill that bomber before it kills off the engineers, because he did not build a factory. That is going to be an air win for Blinchik. Very hard fought there. Hard to call those air turns before they actually take place for interceptors, because interceptors tend to they maneuver more slowly. They have a slower turn speed, and they die more quickly than ASF do in a lot of occasions. So it's difficult to predict which ones, which side will win in some instances. I thought that Blast Shield had a chance with the turn into the bomber, but Blinchik was able to pull out and had a couple more interceptors at his disposal in that location. So total number of interceptors is roughly even again, with Blast Shield producing quite a fair amount with assisted air factories. But for the time being, Blinchik will be able to keep his island safe, will be able to start building out of factories here. No, that is actually a frigate. Frigate first. That will be versus the frigate from this side. Blast Shield opting for assisting his naval factory instead of building additional factories. So a little bit of an odd choice there. T1 bomber coming in, scatter-shotting the Auroras in an effort to suppress this side. Of course, Aurora's very strong at the beginning of the game on Setons. They're able to use their hover to get around to sides where most of the units are going to be concentrated in the center for land-based factions. They can potentially raid around the outside edge. I think there is an access point over here, right there, where units can get onto the landmass. Same thing over here, right there. And then they also have the range advantage. Now, we're going to see T2 versus gun. Bravo dropping T2 for fire-based fortifications. Pico going gun upgrade to try and move a little bit more aggressively. If you're able to get the gun upgrade quickly enough, because of the narrow build space, you can force back a T2 ACU rather effectively. So don't worry about the gun versus the T2. However, if the T2 gets done quickly enough, and you get, I would say, around 2 point defense built before the ACU can get in range, you can totally deny a gun commander. So let's just hope that Pico gets on the move very, very quickly and throws his full weight against that front line in order to have the maximum effect possible. 9 minutes in, we're starting our T3 power generator for Magnatech. He is right on schedule for an air build. On the south side, identical with Tagada for the timing. Let's take a look at the T2 mechs count. Looks like all T2 mechs partial capping for Tagada, and we're missing 2 T2 mechs, no caps whatsoever for Magnatech. So that is going to be a slight advantage to the south side, mostly due to more efficient reclaim of the T1 power generators and a bit more efficient reclaim. Well, no, there is a fair bit reclaimed up on the north side as well. I guess Tagada overall was able to eke just a tiny bit more out of his build than the opposing player. Pegasus, it is full share, like any Setons. It has got to be full share. Frigate did come in for early raiding, managed to kill an engineer here, but Zlo is going to be able to chase that away. Jaguar getting eradicated from the base. There will be 2 frigates online shortly in order to deal with that, and it looks like we've got 3 factories versus 2, though not for long. 3rd is coming online. 3 frigates in the water versus 4, so roughly even footing on the northern edge, whereas on the south side, a little bit of harassment is doing a whole lot of good. Blast Shield is doing a pretty reasonable job of suppressing his naval opponent. If we take a look at the ecos here, Tagada far and away ahead of Magnatech in score, followed by Blinchik for the rock over here, achieved Jaguar at 20k, Blinchik at 23. Then it's basically everybody paired up. This is an even game. Pico farthest behind at 15k score, Bravo pulling out 19 with a fair bit of T2 mass extractor upgrades going on. We do have T2 mexes all in the back. 1 not so good here for Pico, and then 2 more paused on the front line. So definitely faltering in that due to the lack of early reclaim. This is something that makes a tremendous impact on the game, even more so as it goes on. And there's the TAC launcher, which is going to get assisted very heavily. Hopefully the TMD is the first thing on Pico's mind, because he cannot afford to lose any T2 mexes at all if he hopes to stay relevant. Usually the way this boils down in a game like this is the front reclaim decides the mid game. So you're going to have one team that is slightly ahead on eco in a couple of positions due to the overflow from the front player, in addition to the front player being ahead due to having more mass. And then once you move past the mid game, it kind of depends on who can win their navy the quickest. Generally speaking, Rock wins navy because of the economy advantage. It is not entirely unusual for Beach to win navy, but the odds are heavily against you. So when one player can win their navy, they can start exerting pressure on the map. You can kill roughly half the mass extractors from the water on either side, depending on which navy falls, and the quicker you can eliminate that economy, the further ahead your team can get. So Achieved is going to have a distinct advantage here over the Seraphim opponent due to having battle cruisers and battleships that are vastly superior to the T3 naval phase, in addition to Coopers that can combat the T3 subs. Throw an Atlantis in there, you win, no problem. The difficulty is going to be Seraphim destroyers in the mid game. Seraphim destroyers versus UEF Navy can be very difficult to deal with because they match ranges with your destroyers. You can't range them like Aeon or Cybern can. And they have beam weapons as opposed to ballistics, which can potentially miss. So it's a little bit more difficult to dodge the UEF destroyers, but misses do happen. And then the Seraphim destroyers can submerge, which directly counters the UEF destroyers. They get owned by Coopers, but it means that the UEF player has to build two different kinds of units. And in the end, it becomes this furious micro battle where you have to build up a sufficient number of units to be able to counter what the Seraphim Navy can throw at you. It is a difficult thing, but UEF generally wins late game due to a combination of shield boats, battle cruisers, and Coopers. In the Southern Sea, Blastshield is losing out on a little bit of build power here. He is getting surrounded by frigates in a great enough number to eliminate his own forces, but he is starting to get production up at his home base. He needs to work on this much more quickly, though, because a T2 factory is coming online for Blinchik, who obviously has superior eco based on the number of mass extractors. So if he is not careful, he is going to get eradicated post-haste, leading to his team taking that critical hit of a loss in Navy. Let's go ahead and queue in and see exactly what these guys are looking at eco-wise. Bravo on the front at 90 versus Pico at 59, who did not lose a T2 mass extractor, surprisingly enough, was able to get TMD online in time. So well done there. But he is at a pretty distinct disadvantage. If we take a look at the numbers, that is going to be 71 tanks, 17 artillery versus 73 Auroras. So roughly even in unit count, but a forward position for both players. This is going to be a stalemate, eco advantage to the other side. If we look at Blinchik, Blinchik is rocking a massive 165 eco versus Blastshield at 91. It is about 80% superior economy, and nobody checked my math on that one, as we saw. It depends on how you look at the percentages. I have an excuse now. Blastshield also struggling a little bit with power as he's trying to bring a T2 PGen online. Scant numbers here. We've got 26 interceptors, 4 frigates, 3 tort bombers. Blinchik's total forces looking a bit more like 25 interceptors, 8 frigates, and a group of artillery on the island. So this could get kind of sketchy. We've also got air from Zlo assisting with the air superiority fights on the south side. So that is going to lead to a pretty dicey situation for Blastshield at this point. I would heavily assist the ACU torpedo upgrade and try to defend against these frigates, reclaim the frigate wrecks in order to try and get some of that mass back, and then get T2 Navy in the water as quickly as possible. But I don't know how effective that is going to be. Also, this reclaim is going to go to Zlo, proactive with the engineers as always, so the northern team is going to gain an even further advantage. Taking a look at the north side, Achieve Jaguar is at 179 income versus Zlo at 108. So both of these naval players are lower than their respective naval players on the other team. Not a good sign. Although Achieved is ahead of Zlo by a respectable amount, it is not by the amount that's separating the Southern Navy. Zlo is looking at around 15 frigates, 1 destroyer. 15 and 1, Achieved at 12, 3 subs, no T2 units yet, destroyer on the way. So a bit behind in Navy and also harassed by tort bombers, which is not a good sign. Magnatech 171 mass versus Tagada at 148 due to power stall. Let's focus on Magnatech for a second, let him get out of that so we can see the mass income. This is going to be 21 ASF, looking at around 4-ish T3 mexes. He's in upgrade on another. Yeah, so we're going to call that 3 T3 mexes going on 4. And then on the south side, Tagada now recover from the power stall, 171 mass per tick, slightly ahead, but not by a whole lot, pausing the air factory to get out of that stall and then restarting shortly, I think. And he is going the more traditional mass extractor upgrade route as opposed to tryharding the T3 mexes. Although No, he may actually be doing that because there is a T3 engineer right over there. He is control K'ing and rebuilding his mexes to get the reclaim back out of those T2 mass extractors. My bad on that incorrect statement. Now that we got an idea of where everyone stands, let me go back out to the main view here. Oh, that was a misclick. Hold on. Set focus army -1. There's the proper command. Let's take a look at the map overall. So this is exactly what I was talking about with the Aurora harassment. Blastchild being forced to devote a few frigates to his northern defense. It looks like Blinchik wisely did not decide to go in for aggression on the base, instead deciding to contain the Navy of Blastchild to this one area while he goes for a hell of a frigate build right off the shore and continues to pump destroyers out from the rear. Pico making a very good choice here, getting into the water with several factories. He's going to need to assist this Navy if he has any hope of winning it. It looks like the front player has decided to go into the same Navy as well, rather than assisting his northern side. That could be a good thing because it will even up the odds and ensure the win on the southern Navy. Oh, those are mobile missile launchers. Never mind. I thought that was going to be attack snipe, but it is not. So the ensuring of the win on the south side is a good thing in the long run. If the north side loses, that could be bad. But I think that Zlo is in a very good position to defend. So I don't think that there's much worry about that. Also, Zlo is able to bring in a cruiser to do some harassment on Pico, who is now being forced to build TMD all over the place to defend. Frigates coming in, harassing just a little bit. We got a destroyer moving into range as well. Blastchild, should he choose to do so, could move up to the front here and force that Navy back. But remember, oh dear, that is going to get picked up by ASF. Thank goodness, because that would have been a horrible, horrible thing to happen to Blastchild. Losing out on 3 T2 mexes would be devastating at this point. The further you get into the water, the more likely it is that you get torpedo bomber sniped. So you need to be very careful fronting your Cybern ACU when you have dedicated air on the other team, because that can turn into a nasty situation very quickly. I think that the best hope here is that Jaguar can hold his Navy, Blastchild can delay his death long enough for Tagada to do something, and Tagada can use his superior eco and air force to eventually snipe one of the opposing teams or use torpedo bombers in a Navy to win it. I'm going to go back in and look at the ASF counts again now that we're a little bit farther into the game. Tagada is sitting on 45 inties, Magnatech on only 35, Magnatech on 260 income versus 243 for Tagada. So that's actually a pretty substantial increase very quickly in income from Magnatech. Well done on that. Tagada did something else. I think he's just 1 T3 mex behind. That's all it is. So when this T3 mex completes, that is going to be 270 versus 260. So not actually as big of a deal as I thought. Let's go back out here and get on with it. The scout stream is brutal indeed, Wimplash. Or Scout Scream, as you said it. My voice is so shot right now. I dare not go for an actual scream. So Harbinger drop in the mix. That is going to be a brilliant move by Bravo. Only T2 online for Pico. He does not have anything to defend himself with outside of those T2 bombers. These Harbies are going to wreak a terrible cost on Pico's base, and he doesn't have the units to respond with. He needs to take those pillars and shunt them back to the edge there. T1 bombers continuing out to try and harass these Harbies, but haven't even managed to drop the shield on a single one as his T2 power generator starts to go down, and he's already lost a T2 mass extractor. T1 point defense going down very rapidly from T2 engineers. A single plink from each Harbinger enough to kill those engineers where they stand. T1 point defense going to succeed in taking out one of them. The shield on the other is dropped, but there's still a potential for raiding there. On the right side, Navy, we do finally have destroyers coming out for Blastchild, who has moved his ACU up slightly, but he is not really in a position to do much against these destroyers. It is 2 destroyers versus 2. A cruiser is out, which can potentially harass the factories. A second cruiser on the way. I really hope that that destroyer gets out. Yes, it will. Before the factory gets locked. And the amount of frigates coming out of Pico's factories is definitely going to make a difference. We've got T2 subs out for Bravo. I disagree with his choice on that. T2 subs can be a fun harassment tool occasionally, but versus Salem's, they do not do well. Not at all. And that is just going to end up being more mass donated to this Navy on the southern edge. As we're looking at it, a 4th destroyer is on the way. Destroyers getting pretty low on HP on the front line, not being microed as effectively as they potentially could be, with the cruisers getting distracted fire on these mobile units. Those should have definitely been targeted either on the T2 factory or on the T1s to eliminate that build power. As it stands, Blastchild is going to make a hell of a comeback here. All 3 destroyers still alive by some miracle, although that may be a Cybern destroyer on the ground there. He may have 4 and 1 of them dead. Seraphim destroyers repositioning oh so carefully. Need to pick off the one that is on critically low HP before it vets and then focus on the others. If Blastchild can win this naval engagement, that is going to be game-changing because it's going to open up a huge amount of reclaim for him to snag and build his own base with. This is potentially losing the game from Blinchik's perspective with this Navy getting forced back out. But if they can persist, if Blinchik can lock this position down, that is going to be Blastchild out completely. Engineers moving in from some of the factories to grab this reclaim as quickly as possible. We've also got Blastchild moving in with T1 NGs on attack move orders to try and get the mass. The most important thing in this very critical situation, Blastchild losing torpedo launchers. I think that he should risk moving his ACU out slightly just to get a little bit more harassment on those enemy destroyers. One of them finally going down, the low HP one, as a 4th destroyer joins in the rear ranks. All of the frigates are now dead, and there's still a few left on the left-hand side. That's going to be, well, they're not all literally dead, but they are dying. That's going to leave destroyers and subs, which is a bit of a sketchy situation for these cyber destroyers, especially considering one of them has just fallen. But a lack of micro is going to result in a critical amount of damage taken by this other destroyer, now retreating to the rear, adjusting course occasionally to try to avoid those incoming shots. It's back to 3v3 again, with another destroyer joining in from the rear. No, I'm sorry, I'm seeing things. Never mind. That was a... yeah, that was a destroyer. The other one just died. So it's 2 versus 3. Micro still up for deciding the game. Torpedo bombers out from Tagada, deciding to devote on that. Torpedo bombers also on the northern edge. But of course, when you have a shield boat, torpedo bombers do not matter quite as much as they otherwise might. Achieved has got a battle cruiser out, which is going to be excellent for sinking these Seraphim destroyers. The battle cruiser plus the Coopers is about all you need, because the battle cruiser can match beam for beam, not missing the Seraphim destroyers despite the micro, and also outranging them by 20, forcing submersion or death. But then you throw the Coopers in the mix, and it is death either way. On the south side, destroyers have backed up slightly. We now have destroyers in the mix from the north as well, though. So that's 1 Aeon, 2 Seraphim versus 4 Cybern destroyers, with a 5th on the way. And that is going to be a hefty reclaim bonus to Blastchild, who desperately, desperately needed it to stay in this game. On the front line, we've got T3 mobile artillery now starting to pound away at the base for Pico. He has moved his commander back to get a T3 mass extractor upgrade on this side, and he's getting a T3 power generator online. -2 is the sim speed, and it is Blark, who is, he's disconnected to let people continue. Bravo is slower in CPU score than I am, so I am going to stay in on this one. I don't have to worry about it. Pico and Blinchik are both in the game and slower than I, so no worries there. Torpedo bombers coming in on the Neptune. That is the most critical target at the moment. You can see the destroyers have all submerged to come after this Neptune in the most effective way possible. We've only got 4 Coopers in the back here, but with the help of 2 shield boats, they should be fine. The micro for Seraphim is going to be emerge from the water, try to zap the Coopers as quickly as possible with your surface cannons, and then submerge again to harass the UEF Navy with the torpedo damage. And it looks like with the arrival of the second Neptune, 2 shield boats, that is going to be too much for those destroyers to handle. Coopers are going to come into play and wreak a heavy toll upon those forces. And frigates hanging out on the north side. There are enough frigates out for Zlo at the moment to maintain this navy, but things are looking super sketchy up on that side. Looks like the Navy is now in a standoff. We have 3 destroyers total there. Both of the destroyers, or the destroyer from Bravo has been knocked out, so no worries on that. Blaschild taking a little bit of initiative here. He doesn't want to push too much, because if he engages at too close of a range, the Seraphim destroyers will beat him. We're about to see a loss of one right there. But if he can stay just out of reach, that 20 extra range on the Cyber Destroyer is going to have a huge impact on the overall naval battle, getting that extra damage in before they close to engagement range. However, he is going to get forced back behind his front line of factories, getting T3 mass extractor upgrades as quickly as possible with the additional income coming from this reclaim. He's pretty much cleaned up his entire spot here. He needs to start getting engineers closer to the front line, but that is difficult with the enemy destroyers so close by. Looks like Zlo is moving with some mobile artillery. It has been scouted. He was trying to get those around the edge unnoticed to go in and kill off the build power, forcing these Neptunes out of the base as quickly as possible. All he has to do is redirect a couple frigates to the south, and that plan will be put to a very swift end. We've only got 1, 2, 3 Coopers alive versus a whole lot of Seraphim destroyers, which are going to eliminate the Coopers from underneath the water. Neptune's now in firing range, though, of the T2 naval factory. That is most likely going to go down and eliminate any chance that Zlo had of staying in his navy. Of course, these destroyers are going to be able to do a fair bit of damage before they die, but we've now got entire waves up. Well, no, never mind. I thought that I saw more in the back, but we've got 3 Coopers coming into play, bringing the total up to 6 on the front line. Should be more than enough to deal with the destroyers, which have now surfaced to try and eliminate at least 1 battlecruiser before they die. But that is a lost cause. Zlo now shifting over to full Zooey spam in an attempt to maintain control of his bay at least long enough to get the reclaim, but I don't think that is going to be very successful going up against Neptunes and UEF destroyers, which are very effective at picking off hover spam. Moving back down to the south side, engagement still in full swing. Blaschild maintaining his position against all odds and micro from Blinchik. We're going to have to take a look in just a second at how the ecos are playing out, but for the time being, this looks like a stalemate with reclaim favoring the red. Up in the middle, the fire base has fallen. Weight of fire from 2... No, it was 1 mobile artillery, several mobile missile launchers, and a unit you don't see every day. An Absolver coming into the middle to break down those shields and eliminate the fire base. Well freaking done. from Bravo, utilizing all of the tools in his possession to be as strong as possible. Looks like we've got a Fat Boy plant. Percival's rolling out of the factory. That should do a fair bit towards stopping the onslaught at the front end, because those Percivals will absolutely wreck the faces of those Harbingers, regardless of the backing units, although shields might help a little bit. They're not going to be the salvation of this situation. We've got torpedo bombers in on the Navy, but it is honestly beating your head against a brick wall at this point, because there is no recovery in sight for this position. Achieve still rolling battle cruisers, now probably shifting to the production of battleships. Yes, there they are. That is going to give him the range to attack everything on this shore, as Bravo is now shifting into the T3 air game. Looking around the map, we've got RAS upgrade on Blinchik's ACU with the nuke defense down, loading up. We've got no nukes in the airbase, but heavy production with fabricators all the way around. Zlo losing out on mexes on his front line as he continues to try and build T1 land factories in order to overwhelm this position. He is making a small amount of progress. He was able to, with the help of those torps, eliminate the final battle cruiser just in time for another one to show up with a bank of frigates and eliminate those Zooies. On the front, there is no game ender planned, so that is a full sweep of the north team on the southern side. We've got nuke defense in the airbase, loading up a vast quantity of air production, a huge advantage over what we saw on the north. We have a strategic nuke launcher out from Achieved, who is now building an anti that is not going to be loaded in time to hit any of the established positions, but it can, good lord, pack a hell of a punch versus either the front base or Zlo. Pico now constructing that Fat Boy, which should break the front edge. There won't be a tool to use against it on the Aeon side. And Blast Shield now fully complete on his T3 Mass Extractor upgrade, save for the singular one on his expansion that is now underway. And he is in T3 Navy as well. So battleships have shown up from Blinchik. That is a reactive T3 force, but I think he will still be able to salvage this situation, at least for the time being. Look at the amount of production that is online for Blinchik at the front of this. This is what you call taking the fight to the enemy in the most real sense. 2 battleships on the front versus a collection of destroyers and a whole lot of frigates. Unfortunately, I don't think that battleship will be going down anytime soon, and its brother in arms is approaching from the rear. Excellent choice. Pico shifting to the production of shield boats exclusively to support his friendly navy. That is going to negate a lot of the battleship fire, protecting these destroyers for long enough to do some extra damage. We've also got torpedo bombers coming out from Blast Shield, hitting these battleships. So with a little luck, a little spit to hold the thing together, and a whole lot of agony, this line will hold for a little bit longer, but it is still threatened heavily. Zlo is actually in the South Navy now, expending what is left of his income after he is spending on all of this Zooies to try and win the South side. If they can win this, then the game is still even. But with the loss of the Northern Navy, this will make life very difficult for the Northern team, should Achieved be able to front cruisers and battleships exactly as he is doing right now. It looks like he's going to depend on the frigates in order to keep this contained with all of the Zooies flowing out across the map. It may not be enough, realistically speaking, but he is going to bring some force to bear against the economy of the front player at a minimum. Fat Boy is about halfway complete as the front line is still holding. Clinkhammer went down, and we've got a collection of Percivals, a slight number, but a number nonetheless. Pico devoting a fair bit of eco to the Navy, but the majority of it is going into his Fat Boy, which could serve 2 purposes potentially. It could break the front. It can eliminate this production, taking 1 person out of the Navy that is increasing the pressure on Blast Shield, but he could potentially bring the Fat Boy back down to the south as an area denial tool later on, should his base be harassed by an extensive number of destroyers. Looks like we have tack launchers building. Those are probably going to go for the HQ snipe up here. A very decent move on his part. It's going to take 3 tack missiles to get the kill, so he's going to have to save up for that, at least for a few minutes. But if he can snag it, that is going to work wonders. Torpedo bombers coming out to play, eliminating all the frigates up on this side, but not before the governors come in range of the mexes. I'm really hoping that he can snag a few of those kills at least. I'm going to eat my words saying that this was an unsalvageable situation, because it does look like Zlo is going to get back into the water. And look at the reclaim field that he can get a hold of. He's going to have to rebuild all of his mexes on the front, but he did have T3 mexes on the outside expansions and a couple of the rear mexes here. So not all is lost. He's going T3 on the ACU. He has a reclaim field to the south as well. He is in a position to get back in this game and win it. 2 battleships out versus 3 for Blast Shield. But he does have the advantage, like we said before, of the shield boats. So those are going to even up the odds quite a bit. And he's also fronting T2 subs versus the frigate spam that is coming from the other side. I think that that is actually a pretty decent move, seeing as he has the Navy to deal with the destroyers on the north side. He's not, well, he's moving subs that way too. Aeon destroyers absolutely desecrate forces of subs that come up against them. Between the torpedo damage and the depth charge damage that they possess, it is just an overwhelming amount versus the subs. Seraphim is not the same story. The Seraphim destroyers actually get out DPS'd mass for mass versus T2 subs. So those would be a very good solution for all of this on the right. Basically nothing can touch it. But now we're going to see additional factories, build power going down, some hits coming in on the destroyers, subs dying without, well, no, they were able to take out a single destroyer there, but I don't think that was worth the expenditure of 4 T2 subs. Fire coming in now a bit fiercer on Blast Shield's battleships. Looks like all 3 of these are mostly full health, whereas the torpedo bombers are tearing a new one in the Navy on the south side. That is battleship number 3 exiting the factory as those battleships take aim at the T2 UEF HQ, trying to take those shield boats out of the game. This is a good situation where you could actually use Seraphim T3 mobile shields to prevent that advantage that the bulwarks give the southern side. The shield dome is big enough on the Seraphim T3 mobile shields and the HP high enough to merit using them in a battleship fight. The only disadvantage they have is being quite slow compared to the rest of the Navy. But when you're in a long-term siege engagement like this, it does not hurt at all to start sending those to the front, especially if you can drop them with transports. I do think that with the elimination of that naval factory and the arrival of a 4th battleship on this side, this is going to mark the slow and inevitable death of the Southern Navy. Blinchik just creeping and grinding his way across the front as Blast Shield does his absolute best to deny it for as long as possible. Up on the northern edge, we have got a lot of Zooies out. Jaguar not even attempting to come up against that until he has a large quantity of frigates. He is building an additional T2 factory to ramp up destroyer production and a second one going down. Jaguar is almost loaded on his nuke, which is aimed for the production on Blinchik's side. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, hold on, cancel, let me move that window out of the way a little bit. I'm going to select Achieve Jaguar's view. Jaguar's nuke, let me select that so we can see the train. And then I'm going to select his ACU for nuke. Oh crap, hold on. Let me, I can't actually do both. But I can see the red line, so it's fine. All right, that is just barely going to clear. So hopefully that doesn't get randomly shot down by the sometimes oversized dome of the nuke defense, but if that lands, it's going to take a hell of a lot of build power offline. I don't know if it's enough, though. The amount of Navy that is already at the front may be sufficient to break blast chilled, but it will slow things down at a very minimum. So taking a look around the map, now that we have an opportunity, a Chief Jaguar is running 483 mass income, a huge amount, versus low. There is the nuke. Versus low with 179. On the front, we have Bravo at 270 versus Pico at 220, so not as much of a discrepancy as you might think. Blinchick at 529 income while raking up Reclaim across the front. I see that little drop headed around there. That is going to be a nasty thing indeed. Zlo starting to use his tools everywhere. 324 mass per tick for Blast Shield. He is substantially ecoed up. That is a huge amount. Magnatech is on 476 income versus Tagada with 447, so slight advantage there. Tagada 215 ASF. Magnatech with 172. So basically, Tagada has gone for slightly less eco, but has vastly outproduced his opponent on total ASF numbers. So should there be an air engagement, Tagada is assuredly going to win as long as it isn't over SAMs. And that is going to lead to an opportunity for using strat bombers and whatnot to decide the game. This nuke is now approaching the naval factory. Moment of truth is right here. If the nuke passes this point without triggering the nuke defense, we're good. And it looks like it is going to make it. That is going to collide, impacting directly on where Blinchick was moving the engineers to. That is going to eliminate both of the T3 naval factories with full battleships in each one. A feat by itself probably worth the nuke. But in addition, going to take out a T3 mechs, some land factories, a whole lot of additional build power, and the HQ, the all-important HQ. So it is going to be a while before Blinchick can bring the full weight to bear of his economy on naval production again. Meanwhile, these T2 subs should have a reasonable opportunity to make a little bit of progress against this, and hopefully the battleship production maintained by Blast Shield will be able to overcome the amount of battleships on the front for Blinchick. Well freaking done, Jaguar, as Jaguar is now moving frigates in to try and take out the rest of these Zooies. This is going to be a nasty drop and a half here. Thankfully, Lobo's going to fire on the transport as it comes down to the ground. Maybe they will be able to eliminate those before they scatter. Why are you not firing? Come on. There's the firing pattern. Maybe they didn't all go for the same thing. These definitely did not and are not being microed as we go down to -3 thanks to all of the Zooey spam and projectiles on the south side. This might not be as bad as I thought, those Lobos being by far the best tool for denial on this drop. Another shell coming in for a perfect impact will probably eliminate the rest of these, or maybe be a little more off-center than I thought it was. Never mind. But one way or the other, all of those artillery are going to go down. Not a single T3 mechs was lost that day, and Jaguar smiled and sighed in contentment. Up on the front edge, Percival's closing in now. Production destroyed on this T2 HQ as the Fat Boy approaches the front. Looks like the Percys didn't need the help of the Fat Boy after all when backed by a couple of T3 battleships, so very strong movement there. And now the front line is collapsed. GC half produced. in this base in the back. Bravo is going to have to flee, I think, because nothing he has left can deny this push from the front. Maybe this drop can make a little bit of a difference, but I don't think that things are going to look nice for the Northside Navy for a long, long time. Let me queue up F11. That is going to be Blast Chill dropping out of the game once again, disconnecting right in the middle of all of his build power, I think. Where is he at? Here, Commander. Nope, he didn't. Okay. Blast Shield is walking closer, though. He may... Oh, there, he made it back. Well freaking done, yo. I am always happy when we don't have a disconnect. Why are we getting a pause? I do not know, but Blast Chill definitely needs to think about his ACU placement if he's having an unstable connection today. I would not be putting my ACU in the middle of my build power if I had already disconnected once today and was getting stutters. So looking up at the rest of this, we've got T3 subs in the water, we've got nuke defense down, and starting to load for Zlo, who is building shields over it, although a nuke could still impact over here and be rather devastating. Killashi with 200 bits, appreciate that, man. Calling out best game of the tourney so far, by far. What did you expect? It's a Setons, man. Setons is always good. He says, not at all sarcastically, while trying to hide the pain that he feels inside from some of the Setons games that he's been in. Torpedo bombers harassing on this edge as the battleships continue to pound this front base, eliminating a second T3 power generator and firing on a third, I am sure. Looks like we've got a T2 drop of artillery moving around to the southern edge as battleship fire continues to pound away at Blast Shield's base. That is actually a pretty critical misstep there. Oh no! He's leaving the battleships alive in order to put down fire on the T3 HQ, which is currently being healed pretty effectively. I don't think... There's enough engineers that they're actually healing the HQ faster than the battleships can damage it. However, you gotta remember that this is mass being spent by Blast Shield that is not going into battleships. One battleship down, 4 more to go. 4 on Blast Shield's side, but one of them is taking hits from these other battleships. 4 full HP, and 2 of these at half health or below, but there is another one coming out of the factory right now. I'm just glad that he's not targeting this one specifically. That is a critical misstep on his part. There's still a possibility that this Navy can hold, but it is getting even more slim than it was a few minutes ago. Battleships now reorienting slightly. We'll see how they go. And that is going to be battleship number 5, fast approaching. You know, at this point, T2 artillery banks on the shore would not be a bad idea, because those artillery banks would be able to reach the torpedo launchers in the front line of factories out here, as well as denying frigates. Blast Shield may have the eco for it if he's reclaiming. I don't know 100% for sure. This fat boy, I think, would be a whole lot better off up on the front side. We have I'm sorry. It's very hard to not be inclusive. I'm being a little bit biased here because Achieved and Pico are people, and Blast, that I regularly play with. I don't know that I have ever played with Zlo or a couple other members of the Northern team. So I'm kind of identifying with not only my side of choice, but the people here. But I think that Tagada can deny air for that fat boy on the front, one way or the other. So that fat boy, I think, should be pushing up towards the front edge to try and collapse Bravo's base, eliminate that economy from play, because even if he can't spend it, he is overflowing and or gifting it to the other members of his team. and could make a fairly significant impact there. However, this GC is now going to come online. That is definitely where the mass is going, and it could threaten the front end. With only a Fat Boy to defend and a handful of Percivals, it is a distinct possibility that that Galactic Colossus could put an end to Pico's base, and it may also pop down through the water into Blast Shield's base, which could be an entire another issue in and of itself. So we've got the elimination of both of the low HP battleships, one more battleship out for Blast Shield. It is 3 versus 5 still, and we've got more battleships rolling in from the rear with the completed construction of that T3 HQ. So all in all, the nuke slowed it down slightly, but the end result is the same. I think that the Southern Navy is screwed. If this nuke comes up, though, and is able to target, I don't know. A nuke, if it were able to take out all 4 of these frontline battleships, would save the Navy. But I don't know that that is a possibility. He would also probably move them. Oh, we have more battleships producing on the front as well. Yowzers, that is a lot of stuff. I'm gonna F11 here real quick and double check that I'm not... Yes, I am holding steady. I am -1. The only people who are not are Magnatech, Zlo, and Achieved. Congrats on having decent CPUs, guys. You are actually zeroed out in an extended Setons game. Let's take a look-see at the teams now, since we have a little bit of a calm spot. Well, I say calm. There is havoc being wreaked upon the southern edge, but you know how it goes. We're going to take a look at the fronts. Bravo at 239, 253 versus 248, so roughly equal between the two front players. On the northern side, Achieved versus Low is going to be 502 versus 229. So double the economy to bring to bear, and Achieved is definitely bringing it to bear. Then on the Southern Navy, Blinchick at 576 income. Very nice numbers. Substantially ahead of the opposing Rock player versus Blast Shield at 346 mass per tick, and not spending all the mass because the T3 HQ finally died in a flurry of violence. I would imagine that these torpedo bombers were coming in to snipe off the HQ, but he was beaten to the punch by a collection of battleship shots. So in the end, he is not going to be able to make that play. Magnatech at 535 income, or 510 actually, once it stabilizes, versus 472 for Tagada. Both players continuing to scale. Tagada still slightly behind. Let's compare the air numbers. 371 versus a total of 265. So Tagada more than 100 additional ASF over his opponent's numbers. This is the point where you start building your strat bombers and items that will influence the game in your favor. It's unfortunate that only one player went Cybern, because that means only one potential telemazer to use, but I don't know that Blast Shield is even going to be going for that. Looks like he's still rocking the torpedo and the stealth upgrade, booking it to the safety of Tagada's base, as he has finally come to the realization that he can no longer deny this naval loss. But to be fair to him, he has substantially outlasted with his economy Zlo. So I do not remember the exact numbers, but Blast Shield managed to out-eco and Zlo, even though he had that huge pool in the base due to the continuing naval fight, and has now started gifting his mass to other teammates. So this could potentially swing things in the South team's favor on the North Navy, but it remains to be seen exactly how quickly this will collapse, because we're now down to the situation I described before. We've got two navies. Both are collapsing in one direction or the other, and it's a matter of who loses first, because once you lose that economy, and then things start going downhill quickly. Here comes the nuke. Looks like about 95% loaded. And in the back end, Tagada sitting in safety next to his doubly loaded nuke defense, threading mass fabricators into his power generators in order to up his income, and also building RASCOMs out of a quantum gateway. So we have hit that stage of the game, folks, where we're getting eco at all costs. Up on the north side, there is a nuke that is halfway loaded for Magnatech. I'm not sure exactly where he will be targeting, but you know he'll be targeting soon. He's got additional RAS commanders here, which is what is giving him the advantage in large part over his opponent in eco. And he has now started to build loads of T2 mass fabricators and extra air grids, expanding infinitely upon his current production and mass capabilities. In the meantime, we're starting to see torpedo bombers coming into play for Tagada, deciding to build combat units for once in an effort to win this quickly. He's probably going to be targeting down the T3 subs, if I had to guess, as the T3 Naval HQ comes under fire from the battleships. Once again, we may see a second HQ loss for Zlo. He was able to recover from the first one, but now there are far more frigates in the mix than before, and hopefully even more coming in order to deny this Zooey spam. It is a nasty, nasty thing to behold. Here come the T2 torpedo bombers in on the subs, driving those back into the safety of the base, or relative safety, I suppose. Maybe the factories can meat shield for it, but I don't think that's going to be option at this point. Torpedo bombers were shift G'd across at least 2 subs, killing both and going to do massive damage to the others. So a good pass, though the one pass is all they are going to get. Air engagement bringing computers to their knees across this game. Both Bravo and Pico dipping to -4, Yuri to -3 along with Blinchik. As all of those projectiles are calculated, the turns and trajectories trying to ram their way through this single thread engine, basically turning the game into a slideshow until we can finally separate everything out. This is what true Setons means, guys. An overwhelming number of units and underwhelming computers all the way around. Triax, I agree. We should have a good round of sing-along. This is the game that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started playing it not knowing what it was, and they'll continue playing it forever just because. Appropriate fit for a game that is 35 minutes in and has so far consumed about an hour of our time and is still continuing at -3. But hey, we're all in for it. Let's see at options strategically. So nuke is approaching loaded. Nuke is loaded down here, but not launching. I don't know why Achieved is not using it some way, somehow. He is collapsing the northern side thoroughly. That is going to be the end of the Northern Navy, as the southern side is also struggling to maintain, but slowly collapsing. We've got, oh, look at that, an edge build of a point defense. Oh, well, one of them wandered around. It wasn't exactly an edge build. In order to take out these T3 mexes, Achieved Jaguar weeping as a single solitary tear rolls down his face at the loss of a T3 mex. And across the back end, not any extra strategic options going down. Tagada devoting himself entirely to ASF production once again in an effort to stay ahead of his opponent as long as possible. I fear for the southern team when all of this economy is brought to bear, though. Right now, a disturbing amount of the mass is going into making more mass, But once this is directed into a T3 artillery, multiple nukes, tempests in the water, or some other such thing that can cause massive amounts of devastation, it's going to turn nasty. Somebody still, somebody's still clipping for the mixtape that will eventually come out. I don't know. I've debated singing, like doing some covers before, but I have never actually taken to the idea to the degree of actually recording anything. Looks like the total air numbers are still favoring Tagada. Let's blink over here for a second and see. Tagada is at, holy mother of ASF production, let's just call it 500. Magnatech is at around 350, with Bravo contributing another 87. So that is going to be 437 versus 480. Not actually as far behind as I thought they were, with another clump of ASF coming online as we're talking about it. So Tagada single-handedly matching the air production of two players, but in return falling behind on total income and also struggling to build anything to affect the game in a real way. Whereas Magnatech is about to unleash a nuke into the world that could be rather detrimental to someone's health. Sorry. I like the nuke sub coming out for Achieved, as we've now hit the point in the game where when I try to scroll, the CPU just hangs. Looks like Achieved is trying to get a T3 artillery up, which will not be scouted by the T1 scouts coming in, but I cannot believe that that hasn't been scouted at some point by something. T3 artillery has pretty decent reach nowadays once the balance changes took effect, and the Zooey spam is still just disgusting out here. Holy hell. Why are you dragging our CPUs down with this atrocious unit capacity? The Duke should be able to reach both of these bases. I don't know from the rock position if it can reach the air base or not, but the newly buffed artilleries are quite nice. Okay, yeah, I correctly estimated the range. It can reach all of the three front bases, not the air base. But with that amount of destructive power, this air grid is going to go down. It's going to stall all of the economy upgrades in the middle here. And it'll also be able to kill off T3 power generators, ores low, collapse the front base, do a variety of very helpful things indeed. Blinchick is sitting here, does have T2 point defense oriented in the correct position to assist his ACU. I hear transports. Where are their transports for Achieved? Ah, he is transporting engineers to the front in order to try and snag this reclaim as quickly as possible. As a ping comes in on the T3 power generator exploding, I think, if that's what is actually being pinged. I don't know. Let's go set focus army back to the original position, and we can see the map in all of its glory. Once again, looking at the CPUs, still on 2. Bravo and Pico both at -4. Oh, Yuri and Blinchick at -3. And then everybody else, except for Magnatech and Achieved, at -2. Even the mightiest of Intel CPUs being brought into the second tier of the negatives. Oh, dear. Where is Blast's commander? Blast commander is right here, trying to get down some T2 fabricators on a generator in order to expand his economy. Once this all goes down, he is not going to be able to build much at all. The harms are doing a fair bit, but not enough to really have an impact. I like the idea of Riptides, but Riptides are not going to be sufficient to deny this. And now the front base is going to start to fall. The advantage to this situation is that Zlo is effectively preventing Achieved from eliminating all of this eco with his navy. And that is saving his buttocks right now. And on the southern side, actually no real loss of eco here yet. But once it starts falling, it is going to fall quickly. Battleships are already being brought to bear. If I were Pico, I would pull this fat boy over to the side here where he could keep it protected with the shields up in order to maintain a defensive line. There is a Galactic Colossus ready to cross the gap should there be an opportunity, and you do not want to have an unprotected front versus the Laser of Doom. Tagada is actually building... he's building triads. You know, there's Seraphim ACUs on the other side, which can now effectively... which can now I'm sorry. My brain is so tired. I'm pulling Freudian slips everywhere. Seraphim ACUs are strong enough to telesnipe. And they are relatively cost competitive with Cybran ACUs. You grab that teleporter upgrade, you leave T3 on the commander for some extra HP, and you get that heavy... Oh, no, I'm sorry. The heavy gun upgrade is in place of the commander HP. Or the T3, and then you just teleport in and you can do ludicrous amounts of damage. In some respects, the Seraphim ACU is actually more survivable than the Seraphim because the splash damage is able to take out banks of T1 point defense. So in some situations, you can even teleport into PD and survive it as long as you target the PD first. However, then the ACU might escape, so I don't know which one is actually more advantageous there. Looks like, oh dear. Zlo has queued a substantial air grid that is now being built over by Magnatech's ever-expanding economy. Achieved finally succeeded. He locked down the beachfront. This is going to give him a little bit of breathing room to start targeting his battleships in on things of better importance than what he has been targeting so far, and it will deny the Zooi's entrance into the water. Of course, a few Zooi's still coming in from the south side. Those will have to be dealt with. They're killing engineers and other valuable things, but for the time being, a Chief Jaguar is coming out ahead. So, on the rear base, still seeing more stuff being built. Magnatech Control Kang is T1 engineers for unit cap, because those T2 mass fabs do not come cheap in that regard. I'm curious as to whether he's going to go for a Salvation, possibly, or potentially for a Paragon, especially with Zlo now being forced out. Could devote 2 entire economies to a Paragon and come out fairly quickly. But on the south side, there's no game enders here. There's no game enders other than this nuke here, which is now being reclaimed. Are you reclaiming? You are. You're reclaiming a T3 Air HQ. To build the nuke where it can get double power adjacency with T3 power generators. So he's trying to avoid having to build extra T3 power in order to bring that online. Achieve now has the Duke up. That is going to be firing across. Where is it at? I would hope. Oh, no. Oh, no. Achieved. Why? And he's reconnected. Will the game continue? That is the question. I don't know. Hold on. Blast Chilled has dropped again. I was seeing Achieved disconnected, but Blast Chilled is actually the one who dropped. Huh. We'll see if it restarts in a second here. So, I would definitely be targeting the air grid, 100%. After that, I would be going for like targeting this because the spread of the artillery is probably going to destroy most of these mexes and fabricators, and then once you chain the fabricators, that's all well and good. And then probably the next target after that would be Blinchik's air production here. I think those are going to be the most valuable things to kill, and it will start slowly but surely forcing a combination of the opponents needing to build shields and destroying build power. So yeah, good thing. Unit cap, and I'm on -1. Unit cap is a biatch. So Blast Shield is now disconnected. He has left the game. No longer going to screw up our connections, hopefully, although he may do it from the grave if there's a desync on this game. Please no, please no, please no, please no. And detonation means we're clear. If it detonates and there's no desync. And I keep expecting it to happen any second and it doesn't. Come on already. Wait. It's no share? It's freaking no share. What the hell? This entire time they've been playing it like a full share game, avoiding sniping ACUs, and it's actually no share. Wow. Alright, well, ACU snipe mode engaged. Because if you can kill a commander, the entire base goes up in smoke. Zlo is now priority target numero uno. Good Lord Almighty. That is going to be a massive, monumental pain in the buttocks. So that entire eco just went poof. There's no way to reclaim it because there's no offensive units to move in. Blinchik is going to get all of this mass for free and build whatever his little heart desires. I don't know exactly what he's going to do with it, but we shall see. Ah, he is building a counter arty. I suggest a rematch. Yeah, let's not do that. How about that? So Achieved is now almost loaded on his second nuke. How many nuke subs do you have out here? Only the one? Only the one. So if he's able to kill off with the Duke any number of nuke defenses, he could actually nuke these positions into submission as well. He's going to have 3 shortly. And there's the power generator chain that we've all been waiting for. In before additional power generators go up in smoke. And we're still creeping forward at -4. Or he control K'd it before he left.
Strategic launch detected.
I don't think Blast control K'd everything before he left. I don't think he's the type of person that would do that. It does say full share in the replay. Oh my goodness. Did Blast Shield actually do... No. No. That single-handedly could have lost the game for his team if he did that. Someone talk to Blast. Get confirmation. We have now ground past a halt. All of these frigates on the front. Wait, he actually did? Oh no, nobody's checked. Never mind. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Blast Shield had disconnected, so he couldn't have Control K'd. Nuke flying. That is headed out possibly for the Navy here. A naval nuke is usually not a good idea, but Zlo actually does have the possibility of getting back in the water with the sheer weight of Zooey spam that he's bringing in. Rowie confirming, no, he did not Control K his base. He crashed. The settings are not correct, Jazzy. It's always the case that it says full share even when it's not. I don't know why that particular setting always stays on, but that one is not correct. All of the engineers getting Control K'd as Magnatech converts his unit cap into either fabricators or RAS commanders or ASF. At some point, he's going to have to start building T3 fabricators instead and forgetting about pretty much anything else. Duke impact at any moment, I think. Why is the Duke not firing? The Duke is reloading. Is achieved power stalling? Is that why it's taking so long? No, it is still firing. I think I've just lost the shell in the commotion. So there's the shell traveling there. Those are T3s. It looks like it's targeting more over in this direction now. So we'll see what happens with it. Did not succeed in fully eliminating this production, unfortunately, but he did make a dent. I'm pretty sure they're all at unit cap or close to it. Let's actually take a look at it. Bravo, not at unit cap, but he's front. He is at 787 units. That's going to be 359 income versus 276. Rowie, I did see your message earlier. Appreciate the bits, though. I literally read it out. I don't know. Blinchick is at a solid 785 mass per tick plus 650 in reclaim. Achieved Jaguar at 575 plus 163, so heavily outmatched in income. Zlo rocking 205 stable, it looks like. Blast Chill down to nothing because, of course, he's dead. Magnatech 756 at 500 units. How does he not have... Hold on. That's got... Oh, I'm looking at the... Okay, 959. I had clicked on Blast Shield that hadn't refreshed. That's what it was. 959 towards unit cap. Achieved at 857. Blinchick at... Come on. Refresh. Refresh. You can do it. Still says achieved. There we go. 934. Tagada, if it will ever click over, we'll see what he's got. 600 ASF. That's what he's got. 1,100 out of 1,333. So share unit cap was on. He's able to now he's able to surpass his unit count, but he did not inherit Blast Chill's base, which is definitely unfortunate.
Strategic launch detected.
All right, nuke away. That is, yes, he eliminated Blinchick's nuke defense. It was only covered by 2 T2 shields, which he was able to kill, and then the other shields did not cover it. Okay, that would have been hilarious if a T3 artillery shell impacted on the transport, I gotta say. We're gonna have another chance here. Blinchick is attempting to load. He has loaded. In comes the artillery shell, and he's away. So no chance of an impact. But that nuke is going to take out practically everything in the home base. And that is not a fun time to go through, let me tell you. So nuke defense down over there. We need a retarget on something over to this side. There's a nuke defense there, which is loaded ×2 and paused. It looks like a T2 artillery bank is shelling this side, trying to exert some kind of control, but not being super successful about it. And Blinchik is going to be safely away to the rear. All right. I am just going to watch this slideshow go by for a moment as we wait for something to happen. Questions, comments, snide remarks, welcome in the chat. Because, yeah, I've got some time to read here. Tagada was at unit cap. It tried to share blast units, but the unit cap didn't get updated until after. I don't think so, because all of the units at once disintegrated. There would have been at least a few units that were given to other people, and a Chief Jaguar already owned these mexes, so they would have just stayed with him if it was full share. However, all of it died, and none of it got handed over, so I don't think that is accurate. Pyro, I have read that. Armed and overclocked, welcome back from your nap. Second nuke from Jag on the shore would buy a lot of time. Talking about second nuke on this one? Potentially, yes. It could also eliminate a lot of the reclaim over there, which would have a huge long-term effect. And there goes everything in a violent ball of fire, as we see the tick rate of the game being exhibited in the form of nuclear holocaust. That is going to be a pretty hefty chunk of eco taken out of Blinchik, and also the T3 artillery, and a whole lot of T3 power, pausing all the air factories to keep everything online currently. I see the air is now starting to group up on the south side as another nuke comes from a Chief's launcher. Where is that one headed? And is this nuke defense loaded? That one is loaded. It is targeted on the air production in the rear. So he is taking this opportunity to kill off as much of Blinchik's stuff as possible before another nuke defense can be built. At least it isn't the game tick slideshow from the Crazy Rush with Achieve's insane number of T2 point defense. Possibly. Yeah, the GC was built. The GC is now coming up on shore down here. Good call. Good call. It's confirmed that making massive amounts of walls creates lag, possibly due to pathfinding. Yes, that is true, as long as units are trying to move through them. They don't contribute to sim speed lag if they're just sitting. Oh, you sneaky son of a gun! Jaguar is launching a nuke in the back around the nuke defense. Oh, snap. That is going to be a brutality. Mongo running as soon as he sees that because he knows exactly where it is headed. That is going to skirt the nuke defense perfectly. And, oh my goodness, this is going to gut the core of this base, possibly eliminating the nuke launcher, but I don't know if the area of effect is big enough. We'll see in just a couple of minutes as the nukes struggle to cross the map in the ever-decreasing sim speed that we are given. To, I keep wanting to say Tagada, Zlo continuing to build just ludicrous amounts of hover artillery that are contributing to the crawl. Jaguar is going to potentially shut down air production for a period of time here definitely assisting his team in getting ahead in this game after Blast Shield's death. Magnatech actually running parallel to the nuke. Will he die in this? It's gonna be so close. Incoming nuke. Pathfinding around the fabricators is a bad one. And he's free. There's no way that's gonna kill him. He goes down to half health due to the fabricators exploding around him, but that ACU is not going to die. The HQ, half the power, all the mexes, the nuke, all of it goes down. That is a monumental hit on this game. Well freaking done, Jaguar. Well played. Oh, that was near simultaneous nuke impacts. That's actually kind of funny. Three T3 mexes hit by this, as well as the air grid. Lots of stuff taken offline as Low moves in a transport down into the Southern Navy. So I'm not sure exactly what he has planned down here. Possibly mass producing chickens, but we shall surely see. GC on the move as mech marines are being mass produced out of the factories to try and get across and deal with these engineers coming on shore. I'm not sure what they're going to do. Never mind, I know exactly what they're going to do about this, GC. Broadswords are on the move, and we've now also got a Fat Boy started that will be able to help deny some of the stuff coming on the shore. Nuke is building at full speed as the air takes its slow turn over the airbase. Another Fat Boy coming online for Achieved as he is spreading with T2 fabricators across the map. Loading another nuke as quickly as he can go. And that Duke is going to be free to continue firing on the other side, finishing off the rest of this as an emissary gets pinged while it's under construction. That is actually a really good target. It's got additional SACUs around it to explodimacate, and we've got some T3 mass fabricators in the path. There is a T3 shield going down, though, that will protect that emissary, most likely. It would be more advantageous, I think, to target this nuke defense. Where did it go? Right there. It's only under 3 T2 shields. This shield does not interact with it, although another is being built, a T2 shield generator right there. Oh, the T2 shield doesn't cover. He can easily kill that. Nice. That's a part of a template right there. Alright, so if that nuke defense gets sniped, well, it would take that one and this one going down. So probably that one first, because there's not build power next to this one to build shielding. That one is loaded twice. Yeah, because if he's able to nuke this out and kill this base, that's going to be GG, I think. Broadswords fainting at the Galactic Colossus. Not able to fully engage due to the cruisers that are in range right there and the ASF backing them. It's better to let the GC come in a little closer and not risk the air fight over the cruisers. Because 4 Seraphim cruisers, because they have flak, can make a huge impact on an air fight. Much more so than 4 cruisers from any other faction. Broadswords very rapidly damaging this GC. As it starts its run back towards the water, the broadswords will faint away, just making their presence known, trying to keep things from going too far down there in the water. ASF approaching, calculating trajectories, hitching as the game tries to move forward. Bravo now in possession of the majority of the ASF. They are going to commit into Tagada's Air Force. They're provoking the air fight and taking out a pretty substantial number of ASF on the turn. This might go badly for Tagada, especially considering that there are 2 different players holding the air, able to split their attacks effectively. We're down to -6 as this is more than a slideshow. Holy hell, -7 in before -10, right? Yeah, Andoro. This is real Setons, guys. -8. As I lean back in my chair and wait for something to happen. Hello, Doggy McDogface. Yeah, Pyro, this is gonna rupture space-time at some point. Oh, we hit -10. Now down to -9. Oh, dear Lord, -10 again. Why? Why? A few hours later. Here comes the particle overflow crashes. Nah. Let's see how the sim speeds actually are. Because we have time. Blinchick is at -10. Pico at -9. And Yuri at -9. I am -7. Magnatech apparently just crashed. Good Lord. Mista, appreciate the bits, man. So that's gonna leave the best CPU in the game was actually Magnatech, which makes it very odd that he would be the one that crashed. He was only -5. Achieve Jaguar at -7 and me at -7 are in second place. Wow, different CPUs handle this game differently. So Achieved is effectively on the same page that I am. Bravo and Zlo and Tagada are at -8. And then -9 for Pico and Yuri, and -10 for Blinchick. So apparently mine goes down in sim speed more quickly than some of the other CPUs, but after a certain point, it holds its ground. I don't understand the methodology before this, about this. Oh well. Yeah, this is gonna be sad. Oh, particle overflow, Oroji. Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. Because regardless of how well your CPU is doing, if you have some minor instability, not enough RAM allocated, something else going on, then you could go particle overflow and that's GG. I will point out, this game is hosted ranked without quality of performance. With quality of performance, this would probably only be running about -2. And we would be not in this situation where someone is getting a particle overflow crash. So I think that the devs should really be pushed. Everybody go message the FAF devs. He's playing, I would say he's probably playing Warhammer in the background. If it's Jaguar. I mean, he's constantly playing Warhammer. And by that, I mean, whatever the hentai game was that he was playing the other day that he disguises as Warhammer. I think everybody should go push the devs. Please rank freaking quality of performance, because we want our games to be ranked, but we want to be able to play the big games. So just freaking rank it already. It was already put forward to make quality of performance ranked. I mean, this should be the deciding factor right here. You gotta do... Oh, no. Okay, he got auto-kicked. Never mind. I was about to say, he reconnected after all that time? So, like, 2/3 of the ASF that are here are now about to go poof. Apparently, this tournament is going to get decided by the sure-footedness of your CPU and not by the skill of the players. I'm only saying that halfway sarcastically because comeback is afoot for Achieve Jaguar. I don't... this game would go either way. Either way. The question is how many of these ASF are going to die and how much of an impact are they going to make on the air fight before they actually do. Because most of the ASF are still being controlled, and Tagada is losing this air fight incredibly hard. So they might actually be able to win air before Magnatech's ASF die. I'm not 100% sure, but it's likely. And then this, I mean, his eco had already been hammered into the ground. So as far as an impact on the game goes, Magnatech had already been eliminated as a threat mostly. So I think that him disconnecting doesn't have as big of an impact as you might think it would. We may still be on even footing. Alright, any minute now. We'll get the death. Any minute now. It's taking like 2.5 minutes just to complete a disconnect. Oh, we're -7. It's running so smooth. It's almost like a real game again. And -6. We don't have stuttering anymore. Hallelujah. We actually got out of that. And all the ASF are dying as the base goes kaboom. So Blast Shield had a disconnect and screwed his side. And now, not Bravo, Magnatech has had a disconnect and screwed his side. So I guess we can call this all about even. Tit for tat. And move on with our lives. Do, 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 do. Oh. Hex, I do fully realize. So, Galactic Colossus is still going to be threatened by the amount of broadswords in the back as we finally claw our way out of the abyss to -2 sim speed. It's like a whole new world. The units are moving. Things are happening. And Slow is still building land factories to build more Zuis to slow us down. Why you gotta be so rude? Show Tagada's new reclaim field of ASF. Kiggle, that is a good call. There is the result of that air fight. Thousands and thousands and thousands of mass all around. So much that it cannot actually register them all at once. When I control shift out here, it just kind of flashes in and out and causes hitching in my UI. GC is going to retreat fully back to the water. And these guys are going to go unthreatened now. Do not press Control Shift. 488k mass on the map. 200k on his doorstep. I don't think that that is actually accurate. Well, no, 200k might... No, there's no way that's 200k. What is this? It's 138 per ASF rec. Let's just take it as 138. So, Mr. Calculator, get out here. 138 times, let's say it was 1,000 ASF. Oh my. Okay, that might have actually been more than 1,000. So it could have been at least, both players had over 500 ASF at that point. It could have been 600 versus 600. So let's do like 1150. Would be 158,000 reclaim. Good Lord. Oh, he has a mod that says how much mass is on his screen? Freaking A, man. Oh, well, yeah. Okay, if he framed it like this, there's probably 200k mass in here. I was thinking only about the ASF cloud. But yeah, he has additional reclaim of quite a few units as well. All right. Yeah, Maver incoming. Maybe that's what we'll get to see. I do not know. Blinchik building nuke defense in the rear, trying to maintain. Broadswords now going to the north. Tagada has one air. He is going to start exerting pressure. It looks like it's headed into Orange's base. If he's able to start beating down some of the land factories here and clearing out the Zooey problem, that is actually going to open up a wide door of opportunity for Chief Jaguar to use his navy on all of this mess. It'll do very, very nicely. Looks like those broadswords are still moved, but not attack moved. ASF coming in to try to kill a couple off before Tagada can react, but 2 broadswords out of 30 is not a sufficient amount of losses to save anything or anyone. Zlo going Telly. Does Tagada have Telly defense? Let me see, where is Zlo's ACU at this point? Zlo is down here. He's going teleporter, and he's got T3, so he needs to go gun, but he's only got 3 engineers on his ACU. He may be planning to just teleport and try to build point defense, but it looks like there's quite a few triads in the base, as well as a bank of T1 PD. Triads around the outside. Triads, yeah. There's no way that he is going to succeed at teleporting unless he has the gun upgrade. And even then, I don't think he would kill Tagada, because Tagada has the shield commander, and there's a fat boy right over here. Now, what could potentially go horribly wrong is if Zlo had teleported in while the fat boy was in range, the fat boy would have fired into the base and killed everything. So that would have been pretty hilarious to watch, actually. But it is a bit too late for that. The fat boy will be out of range very, very soon. So Pico has apparently had to abandon the game. He has given all of his stuff to Chief Jaguar. Achieved is building torpedo launchers to prevent any potential incursions. And on the front, looks like those broadswords are targeting down the nuke defense. So that is how this game is going to end. Nuke defense under paused shields over here. The shields trying to give enough power to the ACU to complete that teleporter upgrade. If the Duke was targeted on that nuke defense, this would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it looks like the Duke is actually targeted to the south. What are you shooting at? Oh, there's 2 Dukes. One of them was not targeted, I think. And a Maver going down for Jaguar as Zlo in his turn goes silent. And that is exactly how this freaking tournament should end. So many epic moments. So many good things happened in this game, and yet it is tainted by the filth of disconnects and particle overflows and crashes and all manner of non-full share nonsense. Why? Oh well. It is what it is, I suppose. How many players were actually killed by units in this game? None. None were killed by units. That is the answer. There were bases destroyed. There was influence wrought. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. Andoro, yes, welcome to Crash Simulation 2000. Oh, dear Lord. This is something else. We tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. We had to crash to lose it fast. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. The Crash Tourney, Battle of the CPUs. Oh, there's a nuke. Where is it located? Hold on. Can't see the red. Probably on the front. Since that nuke defense died, yes, there it is. Going to illuminate that, well, yeah, actually it is going to illuminate it. It is going to illuminate it oh so brightly with nuclear fire, and also eliminate that front base. Teleporter canceled, obviously, because the ACU died. And now the front base is gone, the side base is gone. All that is left is Blinchick and his massive swinging economy that is now going to falter into obscurity. Bravo quitting out. And I'm sure that Blinchick will follow shortly, whether by straight up disconnect or death to broadswords around the back end of the map. Well, at least we got back to a clean -1 speed, right? Right. Rage quit time. Open up Control K. And Alt F4 into the world. Quitting time. All the fronts have failed us and no one won their lane. Pegasus, I will not stop butchering songs. Leave me alone. I mean, Blinchick won his lane. I guess that's not entirely true. Yeah, that's right, Blinchick. Win air superiority with your ACU. Gotta use that overcharge, though, to kill those more effectively. Wait, why did you power stall all of a sudden? Probably not handling fabricators. And there's the broadswords, killing off the nuke defense as the nuke makes its way across the map. But I think the broadswords are going to finish it much more quickly. Appreciate the bits, by the way, Mista. I can't remember if I said that before because my brain is so completely toasted. Oh, that is the end. Finally. There's no need to count to 10. There's no need to do anything at all. Tagada wins along with Jaguar and Pico and Blast Chilled. In the Battle of the Crashes, the Southern team has come out victorious. In my personal opinion, I think that Blast Chilled was a heavy hit. I think that Magnatech probably had a decent impact. But the end story probably would have been the same. I think that if Bravo had not died, they would have temporarily won air control, and there may have been something that they could do with that. However, Magnatech had lost all of his production. And at that point, I think that Tagada would have been able to come back very strong in air, despite having lost it initially. And they had the Fat Boy to defend with. I think the GC wouldn't have ended up killing enough to make a difference. Achieve Jaguar with the nukes and the artillery did a hell of a lot to drag that game forward. Blast Shield had won already, or lost already, so his death in the end didn't impact the outcome of his side. Magnatech had already had his economy and his production eliminated, so in the end his death didn't change the outcome of that result. So I don't know. Zlo could have potentially done something with the teleport, but both of these players were protected well enough. I think that the outcome of the game would have been the same, but we probably would have taken a long time getting here, or a longer time getting here, had those disconnects not happened. All right, that is going to be the end of this tournament, the end of this stream. I am worn the hell out. Thank you very much for tuning in and for sticking through this. Thank you to everyone who has supported. Very special thank you goes out to Killashi, who kindly backed the $400 prize pool for this tournament dedicated to the people out there with a little touch of OCD, trying to organize the colors a little better, the factions a little better, and make everything a little more symmetrical, which I think that we can all appreciate. And that, folks, was the calamity that was the Rainbow Tournament. Probably shouldn't have happened at all, but we've all seen what can come of a large-scale 4v4 high-ranked tourney at least once in our lives, and now we never have to do this again. That is going to wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.